If you're getting married and you want to make sure that your assets are going to be distributed the way that you provide in your will, you're going to need a prenup. Hi, I'm Clare Piro, a family and divorce mediator and attorney. That's because in New York, there's a statute that gives a surviving spouse the right to elect against the will of a deceased spouse if that will leaves them with less than the greater of a third of the estate or $50,000. In a prenup, though, you can waive that right of election. And of course, mediation is the best place you can have these discussions with your fiance. Because in mediation, you're going to be able to talk about your expectations and what you think you're going to need and figure out what's appropriate under your circumstances. So if you both have substantial assets and income and you don't really need the assets of the other person in order to maintain the same standard of living, then a complete waiver of that right of election would be appropriate. But if one of you is really going to need to have the assets or the income from the assets of the other in order to maintain the same standard of living, then you can talk about what options exist. You can leave a certain amount to the spouse outright, and that amount can even increase over the duration of your marriage. So as time goes on, the bequest to that spouse gets greater. Or you can provide for a trust that will leave the spouse the income from all of your assets and as much of the assets as you deem appropriate during the lifetime of that spouse. And then when that spouse dies, the assets will pass to your children or whomever you want to receive your assets. And the last thing that I want to talk about specifically is the house in which you're both living. If that house is only owned by one of you, you can provide in your prenup and in your estate documents the conditions under which that spouse can continue to live in the house for as long as they live. So you don't have the situation where your spouse is going to be evicted by your children the day after your funeral. So for other videos in this series on prenups, you can go to my website, follow the link in the video description. Until next time, be well.